Today I have the pleasure of Marjie Hadad. Welcome to you, Marjie.
Well, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you. And just to say that you are a global PR expert, executive coach, a former TV news journalist, award-winning TV producer, and an award-winning author. Lots of wonderful things there. And there's obviously a thread of all about PR there. And we will be exploring about adopting a PR mindset and why that is important as a leader. Before we get into that, Margie, I want to ask you, what do you love about what you do?
I have been in public relations for 32 years and in media and PR for 40 altogether. I hope I don't look like that, but there you have it. And my last 25 years, I've had a specialty in medical and venture capital PR. And what I really love about that sector in terms of communications is that I get to work with some of the brightest people in the world who are doing amazing things and helping people worldwide. And I have the privilege and the honor of helping them to tell their stories. What could be better? So that's one of the things that I love about my job.
Fantastic. And you seem that you're very sort of passionate about what you do.
I'm extremely passionate about what I do, which is why I am also now speaking about the concept of how we all have communication skills and how we can more strategically, effectively, and efficiently use those communication
Mm.
skills to solve whatever problems we may have and to achieve whatever goals we have in mind for both of ourselves, both ourselves and also for the people around us.
Mm. And we're talking about adopting a PR mindset. And I think the first question might pop into people's minds thinking, what's a PR mindset? So, what is a PR mindset?
That is an excellent question because when people hear public relations, they say, that's just spin, it's press releases. What does that have to do with me? Well, here's the thing, Julian. Public relations and the public relations mindset is ultimately about how we use our communication skills to get to where we want to go, how it helps us to get what we want or help others to get what they want. So like right now, our discussion is kind of a PR thing. We're communicating. And what is my goal? My goal is for your audience to understand that they have communication skills and they use them every step of the way. They use them at work, with their colleagues, with their partners, with their clients. They use them at home with their partners and if they have any kids. And they use them on their travels when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the dry cleaner, when you go to the gas station, and everything else. And when you interact with people and you communicate either verbally or non verbally, maybe it's a demonstration, maybe it's just a little body language, maybe it's with your words, tone, delivery, and timing. All this communication, depending how we use it strategically or not strategically, makes the difference between whether we would succeed with what we're trying to achieve
Mm.
or whether, we crash and burn.
And it's interesting, isn't it? The whole just that you mentioned it, how that concept of PR, people start thinking about spin. They start thinking about it's being doing things that perhaps are inauthentic or hiding things or emphasizing things that are perhaps only just a little bit there. How do we get around that sort of that almost that perhaps that negative aspect of the word PR in itself and make us think actually there's a positive thing here in how you communicate? Because obviously, as you say, the moment we walk into a room, whether you speak or not, we are communicating in some capacity through our body language and everything else, and the energy we bring to that room. So, how do we sort of, I suppose, get rid of the potential negative overtones of what PR might come to people?
Well, let's together do a big old reset and let's redefine what public relations is in our minds. And that is how we communicate. So, for the sake of this conversation, let's just say we're not going to talk about PR. We're going to talk about communications And by talking about communications and being more in tune to how we communicate, we're already adopting a PR mindset. In PR, we are always either trying to achieve a goal on behalf of ourselves or our clients, or we're trying to fix something, right? Crisis management, or something didn't turn out the way we wanted. We want to achieve a goal or we want to solve a problem. That's what we do all day long, all year long. And sometimes the strategies are short, sometimes they're medium term, and sometimes they're long term. And we always reverse engineer, do a little research so that we're educated, set the strategy, and then execute on our own or with the help of the team at the office, in our work world. Those are our colleagues and our partners. In our private, personal lives, that might be our family or our friends.
So we're talking about communication here, which we know is, we all know is vital for how we do business. We know it's vital for organizations. We know it's vital for leaders to communicate effectively.
Hmm.
And yet, I think it's probably one of the most challenging skills people have. People so easily slip into poor communication. Either they think about it or they do it very quickly and just don't consult other people. How can we create, and it comes from a mindset point of view, a mindset that becomes that communication is important, and how we think of that as a whole when we're thinking about our people.
Think about not what you want to complain about. Think about what you want the net result to be. What does it
Mm.
look like in your perfect world? And then when you decide what it is that you want, that is what you share in the nicest of terms. Ultimately, in terms that the person you're speaking to will understand the first time and receive in the way that you intend your message to be received. So, example, I was at a restaurant a little while ago with a colleague. And at the end of our meal, she asked for the bill, and the waitress ignored her. She asked her again. The waitress ignored her again. I said, let me try a little PR move here, a little communications strategy. So I looked at the waitress when she walked by the next time and I said, excuse me. And I motioned her to come to me. And then I smiled and I said, I will understand. I gave her an I message. I will understand that if I don't have the bill in the next 5 minutes, that our meals are free. Well, she just looked at me and she smiled because I didn't attack her. I didn't accuse her of anything. I
Mm.
gave her an I message, so there was no reason to be defensive. And I told her the net result of inaction.
Mm.
And I also told her very specifically what I wanted and when I wanted it by. Well, I we had we had that bill in the next 60 seconds. And she smiled and she said, "Here you are, miss," you know. So it all worked out. When you're talking about business, who is your target market?
Mm.
Your ultimate client. What is what is it that you want them to know about what you're doing that's going to help them to make their lives easier, to improve something that they're doing? How are you going to communicate that message? What channels are you going to communicate that message
Mm.
by? What's the timing? What's the rollout plan?
Mm.
What's the word choice? What's the tone? What's the delivery? All these things are worked out so that you can achieve whatever goal it is for your business or organization. Is it a financing that you're going for? Is it more partnerships are you going for? Are you doing a product launch? Are you introducing a new service, et cetera, et cetera? How you communicate that, if you can communicate that clearly and have an appropriate strategy that actually speaks to your target market or audience,
Mm.
then you have more likelihood of having a success. If you go to the dry cleaner and you say, hey, buddy, I know that you usually have a week turnaround, but boy, I could really use that suit, say, in 2 days, close a business. Can you hook me up? I could really use your help. Depending on the rapport, depending on the relationship, depending on how you're delivering and maybe how that guy or gal's day is going that day. You may just have success depending on how your communications with that person is. So it's really, really important to have your strategy, have your end goal in mind so you can ask
Mm.
specifically or define specifically what you have in mind, and then reverse engineer and figure out how you're going to get there.
I
That's
really
a
like
PR
that.
mindset.
No, no, and interesting. You went through those both examples, and I mean, you used humor as well, which is interesting in both examples. A little bit of a cheekiness, and but also I sense that you weren't demanding. You weren't like insisting on I want it by 2 days or I want my bill now. You weren't like using leverage of power, or you had just been very clear and obviously using the I and making it sure it's about, as in it's not about them. You're not attacking them. I really quite like that. How can we? Because obviously people don't like to be manipulated, and obviously this is not manipulation. How can we ensure we don't get sometimes fall into that trap? Are we manipulating here? Because people want to have the freedom to choose based on your communication, obviously, what to do or
Well, the
say.
the waitress could have chosen not to bring the bill, and had she not brought the bill, then obviously we're going to pay the bill, but the next step would obviously be to go to the manager. And
Yeah.
nobody wants trouble. Nobody wants to be mean. I certainly don't want to be mean. I just wanted to get out of there. You know, it was
Mm.
time to go on to the next thing. I adore my colleague. We had other things to do together besides stay at a cafe for another hour, as much fun as it was. So there are consequences when the other person is not compliant. And the consequence might just be that something doesn't move forward. There's no progress. Things don't happen the way that you had wanted to. So it's
Mm.
not a matter of manipulation, but to show that there's a win-win situation when the
Mm.
request is made. And sometimes that win-win situation, like in the case of the dry cleaner, is you have a happy customer. I know that whenever my clients ask me for something nicely, they deliver the message nicely and respectfully. I'll move mountains to get things done.
Mm.
And by the time they need it, and hopefully before they need it, so I get to be a superhero. I love happy clients. I think that's why I've been in business for over 25 years.
And it's that I like that sort of mindset approach, isn't it? You want to help people, you want to get the best out of them. It's that intention setting, isn't it? In ourselves, yes, we have the strategies that you employed and you shared with us, but actually, it's the intentions of how I want to approach this. And obviously, with that, you want to be kind, you want to respect people, you want to help people. And that makes all the difference with our tone and our language as well, doesn't it? The way you set your intentions.
Absolutely. Like if you want to inspire a team, or you let's just say, let's take just one person rather than a team. Let's make it really easy for purposes of discussion. And the person's working on something and they're having a difficult time and they're getting frustrated. I don't want to do this. I've had enough. And they want to walk away. How do you inspire them to come back to the table and try again? Well, I often say, and this is borrowed from a mentor of mine from really the very early days. This is one way to do it. Let's try another way to do it. And then I explain or show them or give them an example of what I have in mind. And I always share, depending on what it is, that they're not the first person who's had to do this. Everybody has to go through multiple iterations until they get it done or they achieve what they're trying to achieve, either in writing or on camera or whatever it is, or in presentations, and to really give themselves some grace. So I try to see it from their side and feel for them with empathy, you
Hmm.
know, and to show them that it's okay. And we all need to give ourselves permission to try again. And ultimately, when I'm working one on one and we're having these conversations, and we'll use a little music in between just to clear our brains, we go back to the video camera or we go back to the computer, the laptop, and we try again. And ultimately, we have success because we were willing to go the distance with our eye on the donut, not on the hole, which is my favorite expression in the whole world. It's an old Irish proverb that, according to my research, is not really attributable to anyone, but it goes like this: keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. So I've kind of paraphrased it: eye on the donut, not on the hole.
Hmm.
And whenever you get frustrated or say to yourself, is this really worth it? Maybe I should just give up. Take a deep breath, listen to your favorite tunes, and ask yourself, do you really want this? What feels natural to you?
Hmm.
And I would bet you 9 times out of 10, you'll get back to the drawing board and try again.
Hmm. No, that's really helpful. Actually, that's a helpful. And the music, that's interesting. Sometimes to have play music in between, or change your state. Sometimes, of go for a walk or something like that can really shake things up a little bit. I think it's important to, as you say, not get caught up and almost get stuck, don't we, within situations. In terms of verbal communications, more so than the writing side of things, um, what differences do we need to think about, or do we need to think any differences for comparing things like, talking to a big group of, a few hundred people to 10 people to one person, as it were? What things do we need to think about in those different sort of contexts of communication?
We need to understand who we're speaking to in that bigger group. We need to understand their existing mindset, and we need to understand where we want to take this group on a journey so that they can go from point A to point B reasonably smoothly and come to the next point with a greater understanding of just how important their contribution and skill sets are to the overall success of the existing program and vision. And in doing that, you choose your words, tone, delivery, etc. You demonstrate, you share the vision, you explain how each person is essential to the overall success of something. You take questions, you run scenarios, and you brainstorm, because maybe there's somebody in that group that has an idea that will make the vision even stronger and better than you
Hmm.
originally had in mind. That's what's so cool about having an experienced or creative, or experienced and creative, they're not necessarily exclusive, group of people to work with. And that can be really cool.
But it takes confidence to do that in a context of your team where you're allowing them to contribute? Because obviously, a lot of leaders get caught up with, I've set this vision, I've developed on it, and I'm going to cast it to my team. But actually allowing that, I suppose, the nuances and the contribution and the feedback to shape it even more, the plan that comes out of that does take a different type of confidence in a leader, doesn't it?
I think you're right. I think the more confident the leader, the more open they are to suggestion.
Mm,
We all have our
absolutely.
skill sets, Julian, So if you hire a who for the how, then listen to them. I was reading about someone today, and I love what I was reading about them because they had said that we learn more by listening than by talking.
Mm,
So, one of the keys to successful leadership is to actually listen. So, after you share your idea, then open it up to the floor and maybe have that conversation.
well, it's communication is a two-way thing, isn't it? That's what I think. Often people feel it's just a one way how I'm going to share with my team, this individual, what they need to hear, and they do all that probably quite well. But actually, there's a feedback loop here, isn't there? And it is important to hear and listen, and that listening I always find is it's not just what they're saying, it's how they're saying it, and that whole that body language piece, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a meeting with a gentleman once, and their words, tone, and delivery were so hostile, but even more so, their body language was just insulting,
Right.
like this and like that. And I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm the wrong audience to be pulling this stuff with. This is just, I don't care what's going on. This is just not going to happen. So, yes, body language is really important. Just like with the waitress at that cafe, my body language was super friendly.
Mm,
That's why she responded the way that she did. She didn't feel threatened. She felt like she was on my team.
yeah. No. No. And using, as you say, you smiled, which obviously is a huge thing to do to people, just to
I
smile and
s-
encourage. Yes. No, I
and
agree.
I smiled, my shoulders were down, my body language was friendly, but it was also very solid. And she understood that I meant what I said, even with the smile and the relaxed
Mm,
posture. And that was in the tone of my voice. So she got the message and mission accomplished. We were out of there within about 3 minutes.
yeah. And it was probably all frictionless, and she felt quite happy and okay about it all, which is important.
Because she delivered the bill within 60 seconds of my request, we actually gave her a good tip. So she was happy.
Brilliant. Even better. Even better. And what's your thoughts on? There's a lot of talk, isn't it, in terms of certainly when it comes to say vision and sort of more talking to a larger group about telling stories and but how might we tell those stories? Because some people tell stories that are not always great. Or is there a way of how we put those stories together that will have greater impact?
Look, why don't you give me an example of what you mean by not always great?
It could be a long story, as in it sort of goes on a bit. It's not sort of people lose the thread of what they're trying to say. If perhaps it's a not a very good example that they're trying to align it with what they're trying to do, it doesn't sort of fit or mirror what they're trying to say as well. That could be a bad example of a bad example, as it were.
Look, you just really want to know your audience and you want to have a good feel for the attention span of your audience. You want to be as animated as possible with your detail presentation. And invite your audience, if possible, to interact with you so
Mm.
that it's not a monologue, but it's a conversation, even right in the middle of your storytelling.
Mm.
Because we're
No.
in this together, right? We're communicating with each other. When you're presenting, that's the ultimate in public relations for yourself and for your audience because you're interacting communicatively,
Mm.
verbally, listening, demonstratively with your movement on the stage, etc., etc. It'd be nice if these things would actually stay in. Uh, and you want to keep in mind all of the elements that are part of your story and make sure that they hit with your audience. And that comes from research and pre-interviews and briefings and knowing
Mm.
exactly what to expect. So when you're preparing for a presentation or for a media interview, for a trip, for a gala, doesn't really matter what it is. You prepare for the expected and you prepare for the unexpected. What are the scenarios? And this is kind of a fun thing when you're adopting a PR mindset. Think of it this way. When you write a press release or you read a press release or the first paragraph of an article, what does that paragraph answer? The who, what, can you finish it off?
When? Is it when? No. Yeah.
Who,
Yeah.
what, when. Go on.
Why? Why?
Why? There's another W.
I'm trying to think. Where? Is it where? Yes. That's trying to
Yay!
think.
Very
Yeah.
good. Who, what, where, when, why. And now we're going to throw in the how.
Yeah.
Okay. You know that at the very top of the article of the press release, right? So when you are prepping for whatever it is, answer all of these questions in as many versions of as possible. And then once you can answer those for what you know to be true and what you expect, then do case scenarios that are unlikely to happen so that you can determine and define a plan should something like this happen. Unlikely, but if it does, this is what you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
you know? So I've had clients on live television interviews that we had the who, what, where I knew every step of the way, and so did the client. I'm like totally type A when it comes to prepping. And then a current event happened, and the 5 minute segment was cut to 3 minutes. So what do you do? The client called me. They said, "What do I do?" I say, "You say thank you. I'll see if they'll get you on another time and get out of the way because there's breaking news." And it's basically, it was terrorists attacked the Armenian parliament. That's what had
Right.
happened years ago. That's why the 5 minutes turned into 3 minutes. There's nothing you can do about it.
No.
So just roll with it. Now, personally, my youngest was on her way to a teenage party. She's like 17 years old. And we knew the who, what, where, when, why, and how of this party. It was a professionally set up party by an event company. She was going with a friend. They were going on a bus that would take them and bring them back. I knew the location. I knew the timing. I knew what she was wearing. I equipped her with everything she needed. Okay, that's the expected. The unexpected. If something happens at this party, I don't care what it is, find your way to a safe spot, call me, and I don't care what time of the night it is, call me and I will come pick you up. So I had, went to sleep. I had half an ear open like most moms do. And of course, the call comes in at about 1:30, quarter to 2 in the morning. Mom, Some kid sprayed a toxic substance all over the dance floor. Can you come pick me up?
Yeah.
Well, I said, first of all, where are you? I'm outside and I already grabbed a bottle of water so that I could rinse out my eyes and my throat. And we were outside in fresh air in a spot where nobody can find us. I said, okay. I threw on my clothes. I was there in about 15, 20 minutes, got out of the car, went straight up to the gate. I saw my daughter and her friend, and they came out. At the first opportunity, we took the clothes, we put them in a bag. They went straight to the shower. They lubricated their throats, and then they went to sleep. Okay, planning for the expected and the unexpected, because you just never know what's going to happen.
No, I agree, and I think that's, and certainly if you're, presenting to a live audience or people in a live context, things may or may not happen as expected, and it's having those different strategies in place. I've really enjoyed our
Absolutely.
conversation, Marjie. I've enjoyed the sort of journey and the stories and the understanding of having that PR mindset and how we can adopt it, and why it is important, and getting those effective communication strategies. If people want to connect with you and get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Julie, and the best way to get in touch with me is either on LinkedIn or on my website, marjiehadad.com.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for your time today, Marjie.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.